Picture this. It's Christmas morning and the tree lights are glowing, wrapping paper is being scattered across the floor, and someone pops a bottle of champagne for mimosas. And the familiar fizz, the golden pour, and the clicking of the glasses, it feels like a tradition, like a celebration, like belonging. But here's what most people don't realize. That automatic reach for the mimosa isn't really about celebration. It's about an unconscious pattern, a neural loop that it's been wired in our heads over the years of repetition. And this Christmas morning, we're going to explore something different, a ritual that gives you the celebration without the autopilot, and the connection without the numbing, and the joy that comes with genuine presence. Today, we're diving into the neuroscience of rituals and the psychology of gratitude, and why replacing one habit with another creates lasting transformation from the inside out. Let's start why holiday rituals feel so powerful in the first place. So, neuroscience shows that rituals aren't just nice traditions. They are neurologically hardwired pathways to connection and meaning. When we participate in a collective ritual, from holiday gatherings to raising a glass together, our brains releases oxytocin, and this is the bonding neurochemical, and we feel part of something larger than ourselves. The sociologist Emily Durkheim called this experience the collective effervescence, that surge of shared joy and emotional excitement that comes from being together with intention. And research confirms that being part of a group with shared rituals strengthens the social identity, which directly improves the well-being and the self-esteem. And here's what this means for you. When you skip the mimosa, but you still feel left out, it's not just in your head. Your brain is wired to seek that belonging through shared rituals. And the absence feels like an exclusion because neurologically, it kind of is. But here's the fascinating part. Your brain doesn't actually care whether the ritual involves alcohol. What it craves is the meaning, the connection, and the intentionality of that moment. So when you create a new ritual, a beautifully crafted mocktail, a gratitude practice, a conscious celebration, you are giving your brain everything it truly needs. Now, let's talk about why pairing your new morning ritual with gratitude isn't just feel-good advice. A functional MRI studies reveal that when people practice gratitude, specific brain regions light up. So the medial prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. These aren't just random areas. They are neural hubs for moral recognition, value, judgment, and perspective taking, especially social bonding. In other words, gratitude activates the part of your brain that is responsible for seeing yourself with others with clarity and compassion. Even more remarkable, research shows that practicing gratitude creates lasting neuroplasticity. One study found that people who wrote gratitude letters showed greater activation in the medial prefrontal cortex 3 months later. Their brains had literally been trained to become more sensitive to gratitude over time. And when you practice gratitude, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurochemical that alcohol artificially triggers. But here's the difference. Alcohol floods your system with dopamine, then it crashes. It crashes your system, leaving it depleted. Gratitude generates a sustainable dopamine response that builds over time, creating a genuine feeling of optimism, motivation, and connection. Gratitude also increases serotonin, which enhances your mood and willpower, while reducing the cortisol, your primary stress hormone. This isn't just mental, it's physiological. Studies have shown that gratitude practices lower your heart rate and blood pressure, and it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, so the relaxation response. So compare this to starting your Christmas morning with alcohol. That first mimosa might feel like a relaxation, but neurologically speaking, you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, the tension response. Your heart rate increases, your cortisol remains elevated, and the more you drink, the more you push your brain from the conscious, goal-oriented behavior to the automatic, habitual patterns. Research on gratitude versus resentment intervention reveals something striking. When people focus on resentment, their heart rates spike and their brains show disconnection between emotional regulation centers. But when you practice gratitude, the temporal synchronization occurs between heart rate and amygdala. So the brain's emotion processing center, indicating a genuine integration and calm. Here's what psychology gets deeply personal. Let's talk about why some people reach for that drink automatically, even when they consciously want to choose differently. So, object relation theory, it's pioneered by psychoanalysts like Melanie Klein, and it teaches us that our minds are built from early interactive experiences with caregivers. These experiences create cognitive affective schemas, essentially internal templates for how we relate to ourselves and to others. In early infancy, powerful survival-related emotion cause us to split experiences into good objects, things that bring comfort and satisfaction, and bad objects, things that bring frustration or pain. This splitting is neurobiologically hardwired. So there's a distinct neuron groups in your amygdala that are genetically programmed to encode either rewarding or frustrating experiences. And these groups are actually anti-correlated. So as we develop, ideally between the 6 months and 3 years, the medial prefrontal cortex begins integrating this split representations, and we learn to see ourselves and others as a whole, both good and bad, both comforting and disappointing. This integration creates what psychologists call object constancy. So the availability to maintain stable relationships and regulate our emotions. But when early life stress disrupts this process, splitting persists in adulthood, and the result, you might unconsciously view alcohol as a good object, the source of your comfort, your connection, your celebration, while anything that threatens that relationship feels like the bad object and it has to be avoided. Think about Christmas morning, for example. For someone with an insecure relationship with alcohol, that mimosa isn't just a drink. It's unconsciously linked to safety, to belonging, to relief. And saying no feels like rejecting that good object, which really triggers anxiety. This is why willpower alone doesn't work. You're not fighting a habit, you're fighting an unconscious schema built over decades. But here's the empowering truth. Schemas can be rewritten, creating a new ritual, one that genuinely nourished you. And this begins with the process of integration. You're teaching your brain that comfort, celebration, and connection, they don't depend on alcohol. They come from within. So this brings us to the most powerful concepts in psychotherapy, the corrective emotional experience. So in psychodynamic therapy, healing happens when clients experience something different from what their unconscious schemas expected. So if you unconsciously believe that vulnerability leads to rejection and your therapist responds with consistent empathy, your brain begins with restructuring those old neural pathways. The same principle applies to your relationship with alcohol. Every time you reach for alcohol when you're stressed, anxious, or socially uncertain, you are reinforcing that old pattern. I need this external substance to regulate my emotions. But when you create a new ritual, making a beautiful mocktail or sitting with your emotions or creating gratitude, you're providing yourself with a corrective emotional experience. Neuroscience calls this the reconsolidation. So when you recall an old memory or pattern, like reaching for that drink on Christmas morning, and there's a brief window where that memory becomes malleable. If you introduce a new experience in that moment, the old neural pathway can actually be disrupted and rewritten. This is why any ritual matters. You're not substituting one drink for another. You are creating a moment of conscious choice that interrupts that automatic loop. You're telling your brain, we can celebrate, we can connect, and we can feel joy without numbing. And let's get honest about why holidays are particularly challenging for people that are transforming their relationship with alcohol. So, the attachment theory pioneered by John Bowlby shows us that our early relationships with caregivers shape how we handle stress and seek comfort. And people with a secure attachment pattern can self-soothe and regulate their emotions. But with an insecure attachment, particularly an anxious or an avoiding pattern, often turn to external sources to regulate. So if you have an anxious attachment pattern or an anxious attachment style, you magnify the distress to elicit comfort from others. So you might feel intense fear or abandonment or rejection. And on Christmas morning, when everyone is drinking and you're not, your anxiety spikes. And will they judge me? Will I still belong? Am I missing out? The urge to drink isn't really about that mimosa. It's about soothing that attachment anxiety, that fear of being left out or disconnected. So if you have an avoidance attachment style, you divert the attention from the distress to avoid the emotional intimacy. And you might feel yourself like, I don't need anyone, I'm fine alone. But underneath, there's often a deep loneliness. And alcohol becomes a way to numb that ache without having to truly connect. And on Christmas morning, you might reach for that drink, not to join in, but to tolerate the discomfort of being around others without actually being emotionally present. And understanding your attachment pattern isn't about self-blame. It's about recognizing your brain and that your brain is trying to protect you using strategies that was learned long ago. The beautiful truth about the attachment patterns is that they aren't fixed. Research shows that new experiences like therapy or supportive relationships or intentional practices, you can develop what it's called an earned secure attachment. So you're creating a conscious while you're creating a conscious Christmas morning ritual, it's one small step into that direction. You are teaching your nervous system that you can regulate your emotions and that you can connect authentically, and that is already a wonderful thing to do. So let's make it concrete. And here's what you can create your Christmas morning ritual that honors both neuroscience and the deeper psychology that we've explored. So the first step would be set your intention before you join your family. Take 3 conscious breaths. What do I really want to feel this morning? Connection, joy, presence. The simple acts moves you from autopilot to awareness. So the second step would be aware of your senses. The colors, the scents, the sounds. You are not just going through life, you are experiencing it. you're creating a moment for self-respect and conscious choice that activates your prefrontal cortex, your brain's region responsible for the intentional action. And in a third step, you can practice the gratitude. So be specific. You are not just grateful for your family, or you can say, oh, I'm grateful for my daughter's laugh this morning, or waking up clear-headed and present. Research shows that specificity matters. It trains your brain to notice the good that it's already present rather than constantly seeking for the next thing to avoid. So create a moment for you to sit down and feel the sensations around you. The first step would be set your intention before you start your Christmas morning. Ask yourself, what do I truly want to feel this morning? Is it connection? Is it joy? Is it presence? This simple act moves you from autopilot to awareness. Then you can create the space mindfully. Notice the colors, the scents, the sounds. This creates a moment of self-respect and conscious choice that activates your prefrontal cortex and the brain, that's the brain region responsible for intentional action. Practice also gratitude. So every time you are surrounded by your family, feel grateful. And be specific, not be grateful for my family, but you can be grateful for how your daughter laughed that morning, or the connection that everyone is feeling, or the smiles of everyone. Or you can also be grateful for waking up clear-headed and present. Research shows that specificity matters. It trains your brain to notice the good that it's already present rather than constantly seeking for the next thing to fill up that void. Another thing that you can do is, after your gratitude practice, take a moment to feel genuinely successful. Do a small celebration, a smile, a quiet yes, a moment of pride. That emotion is what rewires the pattern into your brain. So you're not, like, what you're doing is neurologically profound. You're creating dopamine through genuine achievement and not by artificially flooding it. So you're activating your medial prefrontal cortex through gratitude and moral cognition. You're regulating your nervous system through the conscious choice rather than numbing. And you're building a new neural pathway that says, I can celebrate consciously. And physically, lower heart rate, reduce cortisol, better sleep, clearer thinking, and genuine presence with your loved ones. So let's be real. You might do all of this and still feel a pull toward that mimosa while others are drinking. That is okay. That is not failure. That is your unconscious pattern trying to reassert themselves. So remember, a habit formation can take around 59 to 254 days. Your brain has years, maybe decades of rewiring that says celebration equals alcohol. So when the urge hits, use what we discussed about breaking a bad habit. Don't try to suppress this midstream. You acknowledge it. There's an old pattern. Then you immediately perform the new ritual. Take 3 breaths, make a mocktail, write one thing you're grateful for. You're not fighting the urge, you are redirecting it. You are blowing a hole in the neural loop and creating a space to route towards something that you actually want and that serves you. And if you slip, if you have a mimosa anyway, practice what we psychologists call the rupture and repair. Healthy relationships aren't the ones where nothing ever goes wrong. There's the ones where mistakes are acknowledged and repaired. Say to yourself, that was an old pattern. I'm learning something new. Tomorrow morning, I will think consciously if I want to drink. No shame, not at all like judgment, just gentle, persistent redirection. This Christmas morning, you have the choice that goes far deeper than the mimosa or the mocktail. You are choosing between autopilot and awareness, between numbing your feelings or feeling them, between reinforcing old unconscious schemas and creating new ones. And psychologist Melanie Klein wrote about gratitude as a powerful life source, the ability to recognize and appreciate the sources of goodness in life. And when you practice gratitude on Christmas morning, clear-headed and present, you are tapping into something ancient and deeply human. You are integrating the good and the bad of yourself and your relationships. You're moving forward from splitting into wholeness. So it's not black and white. It's the full range of colors. You're teaching your brain that celebration doesn't require numbing, that connection doesn't require compromising yourself, and that joy is available right now in this moment, exactly as you are. So, some takeaways. First, ritual create neurological belonging. Make yours conscious and meaningful. Second, gratitude rewires your brain, and it rewires your reward system naturally without artificial substances. Third, your relationship with alcohol is rooted in unconscious schemas that can be rewritten. Fourth, corrective emotional experiences disrupt all patterns. Every conscious choice matters. Fifth, the attachment patterns influence how you seek comfort, but they're not fixed. You're not broken. If saying no to a mimosa feels hard, you are just learning to speak your unconscious mind language and teaching it a new way of celebrating that honors who you are becoming. So this Christmas morning, give yourself a little gift of being present. That it's not so little, really. Make your mocktail with intention. Create the practice of gratitude and be specific. Feel the celebration in your body without numbing it. And notice, really notice how it feels to be fully awake to the joy that is already there. And remember, transformation doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness. And if what we talked about today clicked for you and you're noticing that your relationship with drinking needs to shift, Unconscious Moderation app is here for you. We help you rewire those unconscious patterns to transform your perspective and create a lasting change from the inside out. Stay conscious, stay free.